This is our story. In search of a better life, waves of Ukrainian immigrants came to Canada over the last 125 years. With them, they brought their culture, their song, and their traditions. Traditions that permeate the Canadian and Alberta landscape to this day. Those initial settlers endured hardship, they endured inhospitable climate, they endured discrimination. But through their faith, their work ethic, and their community, they thrived. Their lives, their experiences, their organizations, and their stories are woven into the fabric of Canadian life. In commemoration of the 125th anniversary of Ukrainian settlement in Canada, the Alberta Provincial Council of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress bestows the annual Hetman Award on a group of individuals and organizations that led the way as pioneers and trailblazers. These recipients distinguish themselves through their voluntary and professional efforts, helping Ukrainians adapt to life in Alberta, and contributed a lasting and significant impact on the Ukrainian immigrant community. Their significant and positive impact on the life of the Ukrainian community in Alberta cannot be understated. With their efforts and contributions, they laid the foundation and ensured the success of Ukrainians in Canada. Through these recipients, the UCC-APC honors all Ukrainian immigrants, their descendants, and the organizations that have played such a critical role in our 125 years of success in Alberta. Every story has a beginning. The Ukrainian Canadian experience in Alberta starts with Ivan Pilipiu and Vasil Ilinyak. These two trailblazers initiated the mass immigration to Alberta, signaling to the first groups of Ukrainian settlers of the opportunities available. Following Pilipiu and Ilinyak came Anton Paish and Mykola Tychkovsky, the first settlers to Alberta who established themselves at Edna Star. These intrepid pioneers and their families overcame the challenges of the journey to sow the initial seeds of hope in a strange, new world. By planting those initial seeds, a community began to grow, and among the first roots to take hold was the church. These pioneers relied upon their faith to help them in this new world. The church was the center of life in these early days, promoting faith, nurturing hope, providing charity, and helping new immigrants adapt to Canadian society. At first, they served their congregations on farm homes of the early settlers, then small chapels on the side of the road, and ultimately in the first of many churches that scattered the Canadian prairies. The first Catholic and Orthodox churches in Alberta, the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Ukrainian Catholic Church, Holy Transfiguration Russo Orthodox Church, and Saints Peter and Paul Orthodox Church Suchava, brought Ukrainians together, satisfied their spiritual needs, and provided them a rock on which to build their new communities. Along with the churches, religious groups such as the Brotherhood of Ukrainian Catholics, the Ukrainian Self-Reliance League, the Order of St. Basil the Great in Canada, and the Sisters of Mary Immaculate all played a vital role in preserving Ukrainian religious culture and traditions, supporting education and charitable works, and helping to build churches, halls, hospitals, and orphanages. With the solid roots of faith taking hold, the Ukrainian community in Alberta now had the foundation to grow. Churches catered to the spiritual needs of Ukrainians. New stores and merchants served the commercial and social needs of the community. These businesses and entrepreneurs empowered Ukrainians in Alberta towards a more successful life. They met the needs of the community, solving common challenges through their resourcefulness, business acumen, and entrepreneurial spirit. Stores such as the Cooperative Store, the Fedun Store, the Ukrainian National Cooperative Company, and the United Merchants of Alberta all filled a need in their respective towns and cities. These stores served as a unifying location, becoming commercial and social centers for various denominations, ages, and political views. The cooperatives recognized their strength in numbers and in making purchases cooperatively. In the case of the Ukrainian National Cooperative, also providing training and loans for business education. As the community grew, newspapers sprang up. The New Community, the Canadian, Ukrainsky Visty, and Novy Shlach, the first Ukrainian-language national newspaper. These papers provided a link to the Ukrainian language, publishing on political, historical, and cultural topics. Naturally, where there are newspapers and books, there is a bookstore. The Ukrainian bookstore in Edmonton became a cultural center, quenching a thirst among Ukrainians for reading in their mother tongue. Through the hardships that new immigrants faced, laborious work, isolation, and homesickness, a bookstore, as they often do, became a refuge for people seeking comfort, information, and escape from the realities of day-to-day life. The bookstore is now housed at Fort Edmonton Park. With a successful workforce, assurance is vital to the well-being of the family. As the first immigrants found work in a mine in Bankhead, Alberta, the Canadian Ruthenian National Union filled a gap by providing insurance to workers who suffered through dangerous working conditions on a daily basis. And grow it did. From those roots sprouted a strong and vibrant community. Activists, reading halls, youth organizations, women's organizations, and other groups were formed, supporting these new Canadians throughout the province, creating a united front in the face of common challenges. These organizations and individuals brought people together and helped create a unique Ukrainian Canadian identity. Early settlers such as Michael Goda and Peter Svarich, activists in the community in the early 1900s, became leaders in the community both in Alberta and on the national stage. National homes and reading halls appeared across the province, providing Ukrainian settlers a place for people to gather, socialize, and learn. From these reading halls and national homes, a youth movement sprang forward. Representing a vast spectrum of religious, social, and political viewpoints, these youth groups provided young Ukrainians an outlet for creativity and a sense of belonging. As the numbers of groups increased and membership swelled, organizations such as the Narodna Rada formed, attempting to unite the Ukrainian community in Alberta. This network of Ukrainians fought for Ukrainian interests in the province, including calling for public school districts in Ukrainian settlements and creating bursaries for children of Ukrainian descent. Women's leagues and associations also gained momentum, with multiple groups forming, these groups contributing in preserving, developing, and supporting Ukrainian heritage, uniting Ukrainian Canadians, promoting cultural collaboration within Canada, and supporting religious institutions. Further, organizations like the Ukrainian National Federation and League of Ukrainian Canadians represented Ukrainian Canadian interests, promoting Ukrainian history and culture and helping integrate new immigrants to Canadian society. All of these organizations and groups are responsible for the strong and vibrant Ukrainian community we have today in Alberta. Through their dedicated volunteer memberships and tireless work, they have been able to create a wellspring of knowledge, training, support, and programs for the community throughout the province. With these organizations in place, the Ukrainian community in Alberta was able to branch out to other areas, from entrepreneurship to education.